doing to our children.
How you doing, Message?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Governor Newsom?
Do you know what a detransitioner is? Do you know Chloe Cole, at the age of 15, she got her breast removed and now regrets it because of gender affirmative care?
How are you?
How about the Lodi woman? At 13, she got her breast removed. Gender affirmative care.
Yeah, I mean, I just had
You can't get a tattoo until you're 18. You can't vape until you're 18. You can't go in a tanning salon. But young girls and young boys can get their body parts removed. Talk to me. Our duty. I'm an attorney. I send you letters. Thousands of people I represent.
Governor, parents have legitimate concerns about their kids being able to medically transition at such a young age. What do you have to say to those parents? What do you have to say?
All right, guys, so we got to talk about a pretty interesting development out of California involving Gavin Newsom, who swears up and down that he's not running for president. He's not running for president and that he is Team Biden, okay? He's given a full-throated endorsement to Biden 2024 and Kamala Harris being his VP.
Importance, moral authority, those Democrats that have no formal authority, and we get out and we make the case to the American people why this president and this administration deserve a second term.
So message is my first point of confusion.
Yep.
Messenger is an obvious one, but, you know, I have one of you at home. You're a sitting governor. I have a former sitting governor at home. And when I would talk about helping the national, I'd say, well, be careful because there's a line. If you believe it that much, then it should be you. And that's how I feel about you, Gov, which is I get that you want to help your team.
Yeah.
But why not you? If you really care that much about the issues, I know you say you're not running, which is unusual to put a period at it.
Yeah, exclamation
Why, if you
point.
care, why don't you run if you care?
Because I believe in this guy. Actually, you know why?
You think Joe Biden is the best the Democrats can do?
And I hope you can differentiate because your BS meter is one of the best because you've been around this all your life. I don't like this guy. I have deep respect, reverence for Joe Biden as a person, his character, his decency, and his capacity to do great things. That's why I'm not worthy of that conversation. This guy deserves it. And we, as members of the party, deserve to have his back more forcefully and none of the nonsense. All this, these quiet conversations you've been in, we've all been in, folks talking behind the back that become headlines. And we're all chasing that right now. We got to get on the team. We got to get this guy reelected, and we got to stop all the navel gazing and the hand wringing.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. This guy, Gavin Newsom, is giving a full-throated endorsement to Joe Biden. He swears up and down, I'm not running, I'm not running, I'm not running. Despite the fact that the guy is running ads in red states like Florida and Texas, he's traveling around the country doing these national television interviews in the same way that somebody who is running would do, right? But he says, hey, I'm not running. And even if Joe Biden steps down, I think that Kamala is up next. Now, again, these are pretty fascinating statements because a lot of people speculate that if Democrats have any chance of winning in 2024, then Gavin Newsom would probably be the best candidate, okay? Because he is the leader of California, which is, in my opinion, a disaster. But for some Democrats and progressives, that is the direction that they want the country to head in. But even Gavin Newsom, okay, somebody who claims he's not running for president, he's a far left politician. Even he is making some more interesting moves that suggest he could be running for president sooner rather than later. And one of those moves is rejecting a radical bill out of California that essentially would have required a judge to consider whether or not a child was transitioning and the parents and their willingness to affirm their child's gender in child custody cases. Here's a video of Democrats arguing for this bill in the legislature.
That parents affirm their children. They have since the dawn of time. Typically, it happens when their gender identity expression matches their biological gender. But what happens is when it doesn't, that's when the affirmation starts to wane. And that's what we're dealing with here. Although it's called the TGI bill, they're not mentioned anywhere in the law. What's mentioned in the law is the child's gender identity and expression, and the parent's affirmation of that, whatever it is, because that is our duty as parents, to affirm our children.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? This was the bill that the Democrats were pushing, and Gavin Newsom thought it was so radical that even he decided to veto this gender identity bill.
Now where we've learned that Governor Gavin Newsom has vetoed two major bills, one driverless big rigs and the other could impact the parents of trans children. The bill, AB 957, would have required judges to consider a parent's affirmation of their child's gender identity in custody cases when parents split up.
The author of the bill said it was meant to protect trans kids in contentious custody battles. And in explaining the veto, the governor said, quote, "I urge caution when the executive and legislative branches of state government attempt to dictate in prescriptive terms that single out one characteristic legal standards for the judicial branch to apply."
Now, yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Now, again, the woke activists are going to be upset with this, okay? They're not going to like it because they don't see this as being pro-LGBTQ enough, okay? Being pro-LGBTQ means that you have to take away children from parents who don't want to push them into sex change operations or undergoing hormone therapies or transitioning them in ways that could be permanent, okay? And, you know, ways that the child is too young to really understand, okay? And this is what one Democrat had to say after the governor vetoed the bill. They said, quote, "I'm extremely disappointed. I know the governor's record. He's been a champion for LGBTQ plus community for years, and even before it was popular to do so," Wilson said in a statement. However, on this point, the governor and I disagree on the best way to protect transgender, gender diverse, and intersex kids. She added her bill was intended to, quote, "give the trans community a voice, particularly in the family court system, where a non-affirming parent could have a detrimental impact on the mental health and well-being of a child." Democrat State Senator Scott Wiener, who co-authored the bill, also called out Newsom for rejecting it. Quote, "This veto is a tragedy for trans kids here and around the country," Wiener posted on X, formerly known as Twitter. Quote, "These kids are living in fear with right-wing politicians working to out them, deny them health care, ban them from sports and restrooms, and erase their humanity. California needs to unequivocally stand with these kids." Governor Newsom has been such a staunch ally to the LGBTQ community, a true champion, respectively. However, this veto is a mistake. Okay, so again, in the past, Gavin Newsom has supported, you know, legislation that is radical, like, for example, making California a sanctuary state for out-of-state children wishing to receive gender-affirming surgery and hormone therapies without the consent or knowledge of their parents, okay? So again, this guy, don't get it twisted, he's a radical lefty. However, he's a radical lefty that is trying to run for political office, higher office in the future, and he knows that as a radical lefty, that's not going to play well in a general election. And with more pressure on him and more speculation that he should run against Biden, I'm not surprised to see Gavin Newsom essentially rejecting some of the farthest left elements of his party, because the proof is in the pudding. A majority of Americans actually oppose gender-affirming care for minors. Trans women participated in sports, according to polls. So I want to read this poll because I want to make a point for you guys in regards to kind of how the general election works, right? You have some people on the right complaining about Trump, right? And Trump moderating. But the reality is that all politicians do this when the polls on certain issues don't go their way. For example, when it comes to this issue of gender, the American people agree with conservatives. Let's read here. A majority of Americans oppose allowing gender-affirming care for minors and transgender women participating in women's sports, a poll found. A Washington Post KF poll found that 68% of adults oppose access to puberty-blocking medication for transgender children aged 10 to 14, and 58% oppose access to hormonal treatments for transgender kids ages 15 to 17. More than 60% said transgender women and girls should not be allowed to compete with other women and girls in youth, high school, college, and professional sports. The results come as Republicans in states across the country have pushed bills to restrict minors' access to gender-affirming care and ban transgender women from competing on sports teams in line with their gender identity. Bans or restrictions on minors assessing gender-affirming care have been implemented in 18 states, according to the Movement Advance Project, which tracks state legislation affecting the LGBTQ community. Legislation in 21 states prohibit transgender student athletes from participating in sports that are consistent with their gender identity, according to MAP. A majority of adults surveyed in the poll, 57%, said a person's gender is determined by their sex assigned at birth, while 43% said it can be different from their sex assigned at birth. Those in the youngest group, 18 to 34, were most likely to say that gender can be different from sex assigned at birth, but 53% of that group said it could not. Yeah, so here's the reality. The reality is that the American people, for the most part, are not on board with the far left woke agenda when it comes to gender. And Gavin Newsom knows that. In his state, it might be popular, right? But because he is thinking about running for higher office, okay, we're talking about 2024 or even 2028, he decided to reject one radical bill from the Democrats, right? Because he's trying to signal that, hey, you know, I'm not super duper left on this issue. I'm not just going to give these people everything they want because, in my opinion, I think that he is essentially gearing up to run, okay? He's definitely going to run in 2028, which again creates a very fascinating situation because he has said that he's not running in 2024, okay, and that he would back Biden, that he would back Kamala. He thinks that Kamala is up next. But that's not the way that he's currently operating. He's not operating like a guy that is waiting until 2028. He's operating like a guy that's going to run in 2024, okay, which, you know, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm just saying, like, doing all these national television interviews, you know, rejecting this bill, you know, running ads in Republican states. He's like, well, I'm a team player, right? I think he's low-key trying to be the shadow leader of the Democrat Party, right? He's trying to lead the Democrat Party and show that, hey, I'm actually the real leader here, okay? And I think that at the very least, he's definitely gearing up for 2028. I just, in my opinion, I think that there's going to be a ton of pressure on him to run in 2024, considering that the polls are terrible for Biden and Kamala. And who knows, I think he might be pushing to the race at this point. And I think that he kind of understands that, which is why he came out and rejected this bill, because he knows that at the national level, this issue and what California has done is not going to play well. Also, crime is probably not going to play well. The state of the economy is not going to play well. I honestly don't understand how somebody like Gavin Newsom could actually win in a national election, considering how bad his far left state is. But then again, you got some people like the Cackling Hands on the View who have admitted that, hey, I'm going to vote for Gavin Newsom because I think he looks good, right? I think that he's a handsome, tall, white man, right? And that's why I'm going to vote for him, right? I mean, they said that on air, okay? When asked about why they like Gavin Newsom, well, you know, hey, he looks good. I think he's attractive, you know, and there are a lot of people like that who will vote like that. So who knows? I just think that this guy is making a lot of interesting moves. They're begging him to run. He says he's not, but I think that he's going to be pressured into getting in the race, especially if the polls continue to get worse for Joe or something happens early enough in the race where it makes sense for somebody like Gavin Newsom to step in. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.